Hi everybody, welcome to Tuesdays with Teresa. This is week 2. Last week I put out there what seems to me to be a start point for personal growth in Teresa's experience and in her teachings. And this week I wanted to explore the notion of possessing God. And many of us have our own unique relationship with the experience of God. A personal God might look a certain way, not look a certain way. Others might speak of God as source, life force, the ground of being, spirit, divine. So this video is a good chance to ask yourself, who is God or what is God? You know, a famous scholastic theologian, Thomas Aquinas, wrote a work all on what is God. He didn't even use the word who. So I'm inviting you into that flexible relationship with the word. I'm going to use the word as Teresa was using it. And I want to read for you a poem. Now, there's a little bit of a dispute as to whether Teresa wrote this poem or not. And the latest that I have read is that while they thought that she wrote it, they actually think someone else wrote it, and it was a consolation to her because she carried it in her breviary. It was one of the only poems I think she carried there. Nada de turbe, nada de espante, todo se pasa, Dios no se muda, la paciencia todo lo alcanza. Quien a Dios tiene, nada de falta, solo Dios basta. And in English, there are a number of translations. Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing scare you. All things are passing. God alone is unchanging. Patience obtains everything. Who possesses God wants for nothing. God alone suffices. I've always loved that poem. I used to have a relic with that poem inscribed next to it in a plaque. And one thing that I wanted to focus on in our Facebook Live today is this notion of possessing God. First of all, I want to point out that it's incredibly audacious of Teresa of Avila, and for any of us, to speak about possessing something that's beyond anything we can conceptualize. Right there alone, we're begged into some edgy place within ourselves. You can agree or you can disagree that God is something ineffable, but it still gets you to the edge. How could you possess something that's beyond what you could possibly comprehend in any way, shape, or form? But she points out in this poem, or she experiences it if she didn't write the poem, that the possession of God is the one place that's unchanging. And not only unchanging, it's the one place where we find we get all that we need, that we want. God alone suffices. Suffices is this generous filling up. That's the connotation with that word, the filling upness. So what could that possibly mean? Well, if you'll remember from last week, when we were talking about the start point of personal growth, Teresa had a vision that the human being, a metaphor for the human being, was this crystal castle made of many rooms, and all the rooms were made of crystal, and our growth comes from the realization of the beauty of our magnificence, and that God, that the divine, that spirit, dwells in the innermost room in that crystal house that you and I are. So if we say, okay, God is at the center, source, spirit. If you're just coming on right now, I want you to use the language and the words that use for you. So if we're taking a look at her writings and saying, okay, well, at the center of the crystal palace that I am, regardless of whether I feel happy or sad, good or bad, dark or light, that everything about me is a crystal palace, and God is at the very center. The more I'm at the very center, the more then I possess God. This is self-mastery, isn't it? Because it's the more we possess ourselves, the more we grow into the wholeness of being an embodied spirit that is human being. And so she's saying in the poem, let nothing disturb you, let nothing frighten you, let nothing scare you. And the connotation there is that disturbance is a bit, if you think about a lake and the body of the lake gets disturbed, it's like, oh, the rain is following and it's disturbing the stillness of the waters. It's something that's a little bit more on the surface. Maybe you get disturbed when traffic is very heavy, or maybe you get disturbed when you're not quite able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. These are lighter disturbances. But she goes even further to say, let nothing frighten you. And frighten you, the connotation with that word is the deeper waters of what shakes you up, shakes you to your core. The remedy for it, to move from the disturbance and the fear into the possession of God and self, is patience. Now, patience in the meaning in the Spanish is not patience that's grueling. It's not bearing with yourself in all the agony. Patience is a graciousness and a spaciousness that we give to ourselves as we move towards possession. So she's not saying just endure yourself and you'll eventually possess God. She's saying go after the possession. Spare nothing at moving towards the full possession of God and yourself. And in the process of that, in the process of finding that and having it for good, exercise the graciousness and the spaciousness as things within yourself and outside of yourself disturb you, and things within yourself shake you to the very foundation of who and what you are. She puts out there the insight that it is this possession that is the only thing that is unchanging. As a human being, we're made to have stability in life. There's often talk about being grounded, being anchored, having security. And I think there's talk about it because we are made as a human being to have that security. The security is coming to the innermost mansion room, the crystal room, where God is found. But simultaneously, your cup is filled to overflowing when you find it. Isn't that incredible? That it's not just the placid being without your cup being full, but it's the placid being in which your cup overflows. In another one of her poems that is called Aspirations Towards Eternal Life, in this life, because she's talking about possession here in this life, she says, within this divine prison, which is the time-space that we're in, of love in which I live, my God, my captive is. My heart is free to behold my prisoner, God. Her heart is free to behold her prisoner. So the invitation that I have for you, drawing upon Teresa's teachings, is first to explore who or what God is to you. Second, test out what it could possibly mean to be audacious in running forward to the possession of that is pulsing at your very center. Move with audacity, so much audacity that you claim yourself as prisoner. And if you wish, if you're someone that loves kind of feeling out the texture of what it would mean to be your own prisoner, or to experience the transcendent as your very prisoner, imagine what it would be like to be in a prison and so contained with bars and walls that as a prisoner you can go nowhere, that you are beholden, that you are captive unto, that you are imprisoned. So Teresa is inviting us to embody, to imprison the divine with audacity so that we might embody it. And the method is patience. As we move forwards through all the disturbances and all the shake-ups that are only happening so that we can have full possession of that we see, and that is beyond all our comprehension. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty juicy. I find it incredibly exhilarating as an invitation. Let me know what you think. Have a great day, and thank you for sharing this moment with Teresa of Avila. Blessings, my friend.